When it comes to choosing a new pope, the process is a mix of ancient tradition, religious ritual, and politics. Only a small select group has a say in the decision, with votes taking place behind closed doors in the Sistine Chapel. Let's take a look at how it works. Technically, any Roman Catholic male can be elected the leader of millions of Catholics around the world. But the next pope will come from among the cardinals. Since the 14th century, every pope has previously been a cardinal. The task of electing a pope falls to the College of Cardinals. They are chosen by the popes and wear distinctive red robes meant to symbolise a willingness to shed their blood for the Christian faith. They must be younger than 80 years old to participate in the vote. The election, known as a conclave, usually happens 15 to 20 days after the papal office becomes vacant, and all eligible candidates must vote in person. Before they start voting, all the cardinals, including those over 80, gather for crucial meetings in Rome. It is here that the big questions facing the church are discussed and potential candidates start to emerge. The conclave begins with a special morning mass in St. Peter's Basilica. After this, the strictly guarded vote takes place in the Sistine Chapel. Once the conclave starts, cardinals aren't allowed to speak to anyone outside of the process, read media reports, receive messages, or discuss the details of the elections afterwards. If they break the conclave secrecy rules, they risk excommunication. Once the voting starts, they write a candidate's name on a ballot, and in order of seniority, they drop them into a chalice. Cardinals aren't allowed to vote for themselves. The results are recorded by 3 designated cardinals. To be elected pope, a candidate needs to gain 2/3 of the vote. If that doesn't happen, they vote again and again. In total, 4 rounds of voting can be held a day until they reach that threshold. If no man is elected after 4 days, the conclave breaks for prayer and discussion before trying again. The voting process takes place behind the scenes. So how does the public find out when a new pope has been chosen? The ballots are burned once in the morning and once in the evening. If there's no winner, a chemical is added to turn the smoke black, so the people waiting in St. Peter's Square know that a new pope has not yet been chosen. But when a pope has been elected, a different chemical is added to ensure smoke comes out white, signalling a new pontiff. And finally, the man chosen must accept the decision of the cardinals. A senior cardinal tells the world, "We have a pope," and introduces the new pontiff to the crowd gathered in St. Peter's Square. The new pope goes out onto the balcony to make his first remarks and give his blessing.
I just signed an executive order putting the flags of our country, all of them, all federal flags and state flags, at half-mast in honor of Pope Francis. So he was a good man, worked hard, he loved the world, and it's an honor to do that.
During his whole pontificate, he was by the side of the most vulnerable, the most fragile. With much humility and in this time of war and brutality, a very particular sense of the other and the most fragile.
Accanto al dolore per la morte di Papa Francesco,
alongside the grief for the death of Pope Francis, I feel, as I said this morning, a sense of emptiness, a sense of the deprivation of a point of reference to which I looked. He conquered the world from the very first moment, already with his choice of name.
A pope from the ends of the earth. Francis was the first Latin American pontiff, the first from Argentina. A native of Buenos Aires, much of his life spent in the Argentine capital, shaping him as a future pope. Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the grandson of Italian immigrants, he had an ordinary childhood, growing up playing soccer, developing a love of literature, and going to school to study chemistry. In a memoir, he writes he had a childhood infatuation with a little girl in Flores, the Pope sending her a letter with a promise.
He said to me, "If I don't marry you, I'll become a priest."
Francis, true to his word, first training for the priesthood and then joining the Jesuit order. Quickly identified as a rising star, He was chosen to lead the Jesuits in Argentina at the young age of 36. It was a time of turmoil in his country during the brutal military dictatorship. Bergoglio was accused of not doing enough to help 2 Jesuits kidnapped by the regime. He denied this and insisted he helped people escape. But disagreements over his leadership style saw the Jesuits send Bergoglio into exile to this residence in Córdoba, central Argentina. He went through a dark night of the soul and later admitted to making many mistakes. A lesson in humility. Eventually he was tapped to become a bishop and cardinal in Buenos Aires. He focused his time among the poorest communities.
He told me clearly, look, I said, I'm going to be a priest because my goal is to be at the service of the people. That's why I love going to the slums, that's why I'm going to the heart of the country.
Adopting a simple lifestyle, similar to the one he had as Pope, never owning a car and using the subway to get around. He wanted a church open to all and focused on those on the margins. In the annual run-up to Easter, he would often wash the feet of prisoners, something he continued as pontiff.
His legacy is about this matter of a church open, a church inclusive, a church that is for all, not of a little group of perfect people, but this is a pope who speaks to everybody and to speak especially to the people, to the sinners.
Despite his position, Francis tried not to take himself too seriously, loving to crack a joke, whether with world leaders or groups of children.
Mucha alegría, muy buen humor.
He has a great sense of humour. I think he got that from my father. When he had to be firm for something, he was, but with good humour.
But relations with his homeland weren't always easy. He never managed to visit home after becoming Pope in 2013. He was unafraid to criticise those in power and wasn't always popular with Argentina's politicians. The first Latin American Pope chosen to lead the Catholic Church leaves a lasting impression. A pontiff who came from the ends of the earth and called on the Church to go out to the peripheries. What he began in Argentina, he continued during his papacy.
Well, the outpouring of grief for Pope Francis being felt on every continent, as Jim was saying, right around the world. He was very popular in the Philippines, Asia's largest Catholic nation, where more than 2,000 people paid tribute, as you can see there, at a mass in Manila earlier. One woman, overcome with emotion, said losing Pope Francis was like losing a father.